Is your vehicle running rough or experiencing poor fuel economy? Recently, my sister's 1994 Dodge Dakota was experiencing these symptoms. This inspired me to proceed in troubleshooting and find out what the possible issues could be. One of the culprits happened to be the ignition system. This inspired me to break out the tools and fix the problem. Now, I have done some similar ignition system tune-ups on multiple other vehicles. So before you can start working on an ignition system, you need to have a basic idea of the layout and the parts in the system and how they work. So where it starts is it sends a signal from the ECM that we need spark. The signal goes to the coil, which then builds up a specified amount of voltage inside the coil. And when that signal hits it, it discharges it through this terminal, through a wire, to the distributor cap. Now the distributor cap receives the voltage through this terminal, which is then transferred down into the rotor. The rotor then is spinning on the distributor shaft around in here, making contact with all these contact points as it goes along. Now these contact points are all gummed up and got a lot of corrosion and they're burnt, which is why it's getting replaced. So once that current is conveyed into those terminals, it is then conveyed into a spark plug wire. The spark plug wire is pretty self-explanatory. It's just like any other wire. It transfers that current from one end to the other. It comes from this terminal through the spark plug wire to the spark plug. The spark plug then emits the current down into this electrode right here, and it hits here and creates an arc or a spark. That ignites the fuel air mixture in the combustion chamber. So now when you go to actually do the repair, you need to recognize what parts are specific to the vehicle. I recommend going to a parts store. The parts store is going to have a computer which will display pictures and listings of the different parts that are specific to each vehicle. Once you have the parts you need, the position in which you start depends on the person. Personally, I like to start at the distributor cap. Now, when you're working here, you're going to deattach the fasteners holding the distributor cap down. From there, you're going to disconnect each plug wire one at a time. Now, before you can do that though, you need to decide on the position of the distributor cap itself so that you don't mess up the firing order. Now, each plug wire, as you detach it, attach it in the correct position on the new distributor cap. Now, once that's all complete, you then would remove the rotor. Before you remove the rotor though, make sure that you make an indication of the position of the rotor on the shaft in the distributor. Now, some vehicles, like this Dodge Dakota, the rotor actually only goes on one way. It's a keyed shaft, and this rotor, you can kind of see the key in there that goes onto that keyed shaft. Now, once the rotor is in position, then you can reattach the distributor cap with all the plug wires in the correct position. Now, once that's attached, then you would go about picking a spark plug to start at. In this vehicle, I've already gone through and done all but one cylinder to save time. So before you can do that, you need to pick a spark plug socket that fits that spark plug. In this case, the 5/8 spark plug socket is the correct size. There's only two, so you can't really mess it up. Then you would pick out the extension you need. And this 7-inch extension for a 3/8 is perfect. Now, you get in there and you remove this spark plug, and now that you have it removed, oh, not quite yet, and once it's removed, you can't just install the new spark plug. You've also got to set the gap. Now, what the gap does is it determines the strength and the strength of how hot it's going to burn when it ignites the fuel air mixture. To set the gap, you're going to want to use this tool. Now, for this vehicle, we're going to set the gap to 42 thousandths of an inch. You determine the gap on the type of vehicle and the use the vehicle is going to be going through. Now, now would be the time that you reinstall the plug. Pretty self-explanatory. From there, this is the time you would either reattach the old plug wire, or in this case, you would install the new one at a time. We're going to install the new plug wire right now. So you would remove the old one, and then right here we got our new plug wire, which we will feed up to the distributor and hook back in its designated position, the number 1 cylinder. From there, you would reattach it to the spark plug, and that cylinder is done. Now you would repeat these steps on the remaining cylinders. And once that's done, then you'd come over to the coil and you would remove the 2 fasteners holding the coil in place. Some vehicles there's only 1 fastener. Once those fasteners are off, you would unhook the ECM wiring, which is right here, and then unhook the coil wire. Now, once the new coil is installed, you put the fasteners back in place, hook the coil wire back up, and reattach the ECM connector. Now, this would be the time, if you haven't already installed the plug wires, you would reinstall them at this point. Now, like I said, that's already done. We wanted to save some time. So, these steps, they apply to many different vehicles, a lot of the older model vehicles, in fact, and they will vary depending on the type of vehicle or the person working on it. Once these steps are completed, the driver of the vehicle can look forward to an increase in power, an increase in fuel economy, and even a peppier throttle. You know, after all, who wouldn't enjoy a little bit of an increase in fuel economy with the increase of the fuel prices? Thank you.